pornographic content, whether intentionally or unintentionally.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at this, please.
I really, 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 really like that aspect because you discover these days that parents will just say, go and sit and watch the TV. They don't even care the channels their children are watching. You know, because you are back, you are tired, you need freedom. Oh, face the TV. And then sometimes the children can just change channels, and find themselves where they are not supposed to be.
Yeah.
Really, really, I want to quickly say that being a parent, you know, these children are actually gifts from God. And I think they are our first assignment. Regardless of what we do, we should always check. This
What
exposing
they do,
them to
yes.
pornography sites is becoming a real big issue, especially with maybe teenagers and adolescents with phones.
Yes.
With phones, it's even worse with phones.
Yes.
Huh? They can just find them. You know how Google does now. You are searching for something else, and these sites just pop up from nowhere. As an adult, you'll be able to even censor it.
Yes.
But as a child, how? And then you have little children as young as 7, 8, 10 having handsets. For heaven's sake, where are we going to?
And do you know, even some of the cartoon channels now, the kind of cartoons they show are more for adults, not for children. The kind of words they use in the cartoon are not words that children should listen to. So the cartoons, I think parents should go through what their children are really watching. Be it
That cartoon was actually made for children. But you know, the devil has a way of softly
exactly.
introducing the children into such
yeah,
things.
yeah.
So if you must allow your children to watch any channel, sit down with them, explain to them this particular program, don't watch it because it's not healthy. Give them reasons. If it's worse if you just order them and don't watch this, don't do this.
That will make them more curious.
Yes. So kill their curiosity by, first of all, explaining to them reasons why they should not visit such places. And you know, when we talk about exposing to pornographic content, sometimes it's not just through the television alone, the handsets, the tablets. The parents actually mean well, okay? When they got these gadgets for the children, especially in this phase of the COVID-19 we just experienced. Yes, so a lot of parents got those gadgets in order to continue the process of education. But unfortunately, it has just been so misused that it is becoming detrimental even to the children's mental health.
Parents can block some. There are certain things they can block on the phones of a child.
Okay.
That the children cannot go to some of the sites they want to go to.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yes. I understand that parents can link their children's
Yes, their children's
email.
phone to their own, so that that child cannot go to certain sites.
Yes,
The father or
yes.
mother that is linked to it will get to know what that child is going to and be able to caution the child.
Thank you very much, viewers at home. Thank you for joining us. We are talking on the issue, on the topic, pedophilia. And with me doing justice to the topic is on my left, Sister Doris Pius, and to my right, Sister Vera Tsume. We are doing this in the light of parental responsibility. A lot of these cases have gone on around, and who is to be held responsible or who is to be held liable for all these atrocities is what we are going to be looking at today. Now, talking about forms of pedophilia. Incest is of utmost concern. Incest. When siblings, people of blood relations, parents, father to child, brother, sister, cousin, and this constitutes the larger population of reports that we get.
Oh, okay, I really think with that, I want to quickly say parents have a lot to do. You know, sometimes when I read cases like that, it baffles me, you know, how siblings can just decide to know themselves conjugally. I really think there's something wrong. You know, at our little level with our children, we should find time to talk this. I think with this generation we have now, we should do a lot of talking. You don't shout them down. You empower them with knowledge. Okay, you tell them that there's a price for everything. This is your brother, this is your sister. You don't do this. You know, sometimes these children are just unconscious of this thing. Like you have teenagers at home, and you don't teach them what privacy means. You know, the sister can be dressing when the brother is sitting there. You know, the brother can bump into the sister in the bedroom. These are little things that we should teach our children. You know, you respect individual privacy. You don't bump into each other. That's wrong. You know, it's your sister. She has a right to her privacy. He's your brother. He has his right to his privacy. I think if we begin to talk more to our children, they will, you know, they will understand these things. And for me, it's becoming a norm. And it really breaks my heart. So much that I have to every day sneak on my children. Because the society is something else. And then you see me sneaking at 2 a.m.
I do that too.
Trying to check. You know, it's not like I've seen anything. But then your mind keeps pushing you towards that. And you just want to be sure. Because the mind can tend towards anything.
Especially when you have visitors around.
Exactly.
Incest, it can be so troubling. You know, it reminds me of a case. What you just said now reminds me of an issue, or we were arguing over social media some time ago. You know, when people were saying that, a group of people were saying, no, how can a mature young man walk into the room? The sister is half naked, and they say, and some were like, is he not my brother? You know, that is where we forget that we overlook these things, and it begins to breed those thoughts. He sees a brother sees his sister naked, and you think it does not register. Then tomorrow you tell me,
because the mind, the human mind,
good,
is very, very active.
Then
it can just go off and think of different things. That is why the Bible says we should renew our mind.
Yeah.
Renew. It's a day-to-day thing. Because when you go out, you see things, you hear things. When you come back home, get those things off your mind by renewing of your mind, by the word of God.
Yes. You see, that brings me back to my point where I still disagree with neurologists that it is a brain disorder, whatever it is. It is what you feed your eyes with, it is what you feed your mind with that it builds upon. Okay? So I think as parents also, we should safeguard our children by ensuring that in my house there's a standing rule. The males don't enter the females' room for whatsoever reason. You need something, stand by the door, knock, you ask them, they go and get it for you. And vice versa. Because it's very, very, I'm not saying that with all that, you are 100% sure, all right? But at least you put some precaution measures on ground. Okay. What can cause child sexual molestation? What can be responsible for this? Now, let me categorize it that the cause is cut across two spheres. It cuts across the side of the offenders. What can cause people to do that, and what can cause people to be molested, these children to be molested?
You know, sometimes they will say, well, I would say it's devilish to begin with. But looking at it the other way around, I've seen a case of a man who was caught in the act, a 50-year-old man who was caught in the act with a 7-year-old girl. And when they asked him, he said he took sexual drugs and his wife was not available. So he settled for that little child. It's funny, but seriously, it's heartbreaking.
Yes, it is.
He settled for that little child because at some point, he couldn't control himself.
Your wife is not around. You are taking aphrodisiac. Please, what would you pour on? As in, how will you do it? How will you handle it? You will dream it away? Of course, the next available victim, there you just pounce on it. You know, there's a case I heard of, was a secondary school, a mixed school, where a boy was caught climbing a tree behind the girls' hostel, peeping. And his manhood was erect, a boy of about 15 years old, very erect. Upon further investigation, we were told that the guy took, the young man got one of these aphrodisiac drugs, took it. In school, you are in different hostels. Now, he couldn't help himself. He's climbing on the tree, watching, even when he was caught, you know, when caught in the act, the body would just die down. That one did not die, he was just there like that. Okay, that's very, very dangerous.
It is.
I believe it's dangerous to the health also. According to your health, whoever should take that drugs should be those who are not sexually capable. Yes, they will need it to boost, but for those who are already capable, I don't see.
Those that are married.
Yes. Okay.
I want to also add that for abuse or molestation of any kind, people that are perpetrators of the act, some of them, you know, are just victims from childhood.
Yes.
They're just victims from childhood. And it still goes back to parenting. You know, some children were abused long time ago, like a male, and he sees it as a normal thing. He grows into it, and he wants to take it up on another male or female, whichever the case may be. So some children are actually ignorant of it. As we speak, there are still people who are actually ignorant of this. Is when you say them, they be like, it's not normal.
Is it for real?
Yes.
Yeah. You know,
They are still living in I don't want to say it's a backward world, but it's seeming like that, because for me now, it's what we see everywhere. It's always over the news.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. It's like a norm.
you know, a survey was carried out on mental disorder, and it was found out that out of every 4 girls, 1 had been molested. And then out of every 10 boys, 1 had been molested. So now, these children that have gone through this thing, how do we want them to look at tomorrow? You understand what I mean? Mm-hmm. How do we want them to look at the society? Because they will feel that the society was standing there watching
the society
while that was happening to them.
Yes. That is what will now lead to the circle of abuse, where the abuser when the abuse becomes an abuser, and the circle keeps going like that. Yes. Unfortunately, some of these incidents are not even known to the parents till they die.
Yes.
So some parents don't even know their children have been abused at any point in time in their life. Okay, even what situations can also cause people to be exposed to child sexual molestation. Yes, children can be exposed to child sexual molestation when in a situation of war, like we have ravaging everywhere. Child prisoners will be taken and in fact, some of these people even kidnap the children basically for this.
That's the case now in Nigeria as a whole. And unfortunately, the females are actually victims. Yeah. At the end of the day, at the bottom line, women are actually victims. You've heard of cases of bandits go into a village, take all the females, both old and young, and then take them as wives forcefully. Some of these girls are very young. The case of the children from the university in Kaduna that were released last week, one of them came back pregnant. You see, so at the end of the day, girls are actually victims more. Even though, yes, of course, boys are actually being molested. But like you said from your survey, you said 4 You said 1 out of every 4,
Every 4.
and then 1 out of every
Every
10.
10 of
You
the
see
boys.
the ratio?
Yeah.
That means for every 10 of the girls, we have like 3 people that are molested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now let me ask this question again. Does that mean that the offenders are only male or both sides?
It's usually both sides.
Okay.
But the male gender tends to be more. Yeah.
Now, on the part of the victims, what could possibly make a child to be molested? Okay, just before we get there, on the part of perpetrators, there's one funny statement I heard over the news when a man of about 57 years old molested a girl of 7 years, and he said, "Now she says she want them. Now she says she want them," and I was like, how will a 7-year-old want something like that? And a 57-year-old man will now oblige her. If she's demanding for money, I am sure he will not give money. So why was he quick and ready to oblige to her? So sometimes people have some mental disorders like being depressed and emotional unbalanced, and that can equally expose them to committing this crime. Now, the part of the victims, what can be the possible causes for victims?
Okay, like for the little girl you're saying, children that age are actually attracted to little things. Some of these perpetrators, you see, they lure the children with biscuits, sweets, and all that. These children are innocent. So they just look at it as a form of love that they can't get from their parents, and then
Wow.
somebody is showing them. They'll tell you, come, I'll give you plenty sweet, I'll give you plenty biscuit. And maybe the child has asked the mom or the dad, and in our usual way of parenting, we shut them down. It's biscuit food, it's sweet food. And that's what the child wants,
Guilty.
at that point. And as parents, you are not sensitive to the child's wants. And somebody around who is looking for a loophole to capitalize on your error just grabs it.
But that does not mean that I indulge my child for every request.
No, that's not the point I'm making.
Okay.
But from the beginning, I said, know your children. If you know your child, it makes it easy. Very, very easy. So when the child needs something, as mothers, we know when a child needs something, and we know when the child is just acting. And because you know your child, it's not. I'm not saying you should spoil them, but I'm saying once a while, just listen to them. Listen to that stupid thing they are saying they want.
And most of these occurrences or these things happen in the safe places.
Yes.
Yeah.
Our homes, our schools, even in churches. That is where they happen. And these are where parents turn a blind eye to.
Yes.
And
Full
when it
trust.
happens, the child tries to communicate to us, the parents, tries to tell us, what do?
Of course.
We shush up
Yeah,
the
we
child.
don't listen.
And of course, the next thing the child does is to cave in. That's just...
I heard a story of a teenage girl who her parents were always not listening to her. And I'm sure you read it. It trended everywhere about 2 years ago. And she found solace in her uncle who was always listening to her. Listening to every stupid thing she had to say. And of course, they became so close. And one thing led to the other. And as at the point her parents discovered, she had had like 4 abortions. So sometimes when you are not listening, a lot happens. Just listen.
It doesn't hurt to listen.
It doesn't matter. Even though your child is a
doesn't
year
hurt.
old, listen.
Yeah.
They communicate. When things worry them, they communicate. And like you said, the churches, the schools, the worship centers, even your little lesson teachers that come at home. Have you not heard stories of lesson teachers that molest children? So just listen to these children.
So on the part of victims now, what causes, what makes them or what puts them at a disadvantaged position to be to be molested is the fact that parents don't pay attention to them. And I think broken home too plays a large part.
Well,
in this.
in terms of broken home, I grew up with a single mom. Here in Mina. And while growing up, my mom, she was a businesswoman. So usually I go to school in the morning. There are other people I go to school with. By the time we get back home, I am alone in our own house. And there were boys with their sisters everywhere. But somehow, boys come to play around. And even if anything had happened, and I had told my mom would not have believed me. She would have just probably pushed it off. And pushing it off would make the boys get more encouraged to do what it is they wanted to do. So what am I saying? No matter the business, no matter the work, no matter what you are doing, listen to your children. Because at a tender age, when you don't listen and they grow up like that, they've turned a thick skin. No matter what is happening to them, they would not talk.
Okay, in line with the broken home thing, I want to say, you said growing up, and I know that your growing up is like 30, 40 years ago.
Yes.
Okay, times have changed.
Yeah.
Times have really changed, and you see children. I've had a girl from a broken home, and I know how hard it was. She was a victim at age 2, and I know how hard it was for us to manage her even in school. Because her case was that she shuffles her both parents. And she picks here and she picks there. And then she's in the middle. She doesn't know how to strike a balance. So right there in the school, it was a place for us to help her strike it. Because the parents were always at war. Everybody wanted to win the girl to their side. So they were not checking the ills of what the girl was learning. So children like that could be victims and they don't know who they will talk to. Because the parents were busy, trying to show love. I want you to love me more than your mom. I want you to love me more than your dad. And then the girl was there, sieving and picking attitude. Of course, if she goes to the mother's place, the mother probably has her male friends. And then when she comes to the father's place, he also probably has his female friends. So she was there, an innocent girl, picking attitudes and nobody was checking. But then when we discovered some acts in school, we had to make the school a point for her to organize and put herself back to order. Because we couldn't talk to the parents.
Wow. All right. So we have other causes, like what situation? Child labor. Child labor is one, and that's because of the economic situation. All right. There have been instances where children have been molested while they were trying to help their parents make a living. I equally have an experience, but thank God it did not get to the point where he succeeded. All right. But it gave me, as a child, it gave me an idea. I made up my mind vehemently and said, no matter the economic situation, my children will never hawk. They will never hawk. And another situation I had, I was going from house to house, and somebody came from inside and bought some of the wares I was selling, went back inside. And I stood for like some time. Brother, I won't go, give me money. And I knew I heard two voices, male. And I said, come inside. And that was where I stood. I refused to move. I stood there for a very long time. And it happened at the time where, people had gone to work. Housewives had gone to the market to get something to prepare for the children when they come back. And I stood. There was nobody I could talk to. I just carried myself and left. When I got home, why is your money not complete? When I started, the first thing they would say is, you have come in this story, and I got the beatings of my life. And it pushed me, that kind of pushed me away from my parents. It took a while before I could really connect to them, So this child hawking, this child labor, child hawking, it really exposes children to the harm of sexual molestation. Okay, how do we spot perpetrators? Is it, before they used to, as a child, we used to think that the devil comes with is in black attire, with two horns, and very ugly and scary. But then I watched a movie and saw that the man that acted the devil's advocate was actually a handsome man. I began to ask, so how will devil himself look like? So how do we spot the perpetrators of this act?
Now that's a bit difficult, but then it's easy again. It still goes back to knowing your children and knowing your environment. Know the kind of people that come around. There are some people that, of course, by mere seeing them, you get scared.
Yeah.
You just see them and they act it. So you are so scared. But there are some that are very innocent. Very, very innocent. And then it's even common among the innocent ones.
Yeah.
And sometimes you find some of these grown men and they go, my wife, my wife, my wife, my wife. I will marry you. I like this one. She's pretty. Parents, beware of those kind of people.
She's my wife.
Yes.
She's my wife. They started like that. She's I like this
she's
girl.
my wife.
The child is just 7 years. She's my wife.
She's my wife.
Yeah, I don't take those kind of expensive jokes.
Actually, I believe that it's not really easy to tell who is a possible